In the last episode, I talked about the importance of delegation. And in doing so, I mentioned that I have a number of SOPs that I use with my team to make editing and posting both predictable and consistent. In today's episode, I want to go a little deeper on the actual editing philosophy that I have behind those SOPs because I think it's one of the most game changing decisions in this whole system. And if done wrong, is also the number one killer of most YouTube channels and podcasts. And it all has to do with editing. Unnecessary editing, especially if you're doing the edits yourself, is the number one thing that's going to eventually kill your momentum and consistency, assuming that you ever get off the ground in the first place. So my philosophy, at least when you're starting out, is to only edit your videos by trimming. That's it. Cut out any dead air, bad takes, ums and uhs if you want, but only if AI is doing that for you. And just take out any parts of the video that don't need to be there. You can almost always make your videos better by making them shorter, and you can make them worse by making them unnecessarily long. I don't bother adding transitions. I don't layer in effects except for B-roll. And even that's not something I would worry about right away until you get established. I don't mess around with audio or making, the video better. You want to start with a good quality mic, a decent camera, and a decent place to record. The only thing that really makes your videos better in most situations is to just make them shorter, more compact, more to the point. You want to avoid fluff, avoid prolonged introductions and hooks. You want to keep only what is essential and has an obvious purpose for that video. Heavy editing doesn't just cost you time once, it costs you every time you make a video, forever. If your process depends on hours and hours of editing, even if someone else is doing it for you, you've built a system that can't really be scaled, or it becomes so expensive it's not worth doing. Every new video creates the same bottleneck. So my philosophy, the trim-only editing process, tends to be fast enough, simple enough, that it's readily delegable. I can hand it to a VA with a clear rule, tell her, cut out what doesn't need to be there, just leave the rest alone, and they can execute that consistently without me having to review every decision and every edit. If the editing required my creative judgment every time, I'd have to check everything myself and the whole process would come to a grinding halt. In almost all situations, the ultimate impact of your video is going to have nothing to do with having the perfect audio or video quality. And one reason I believe this is true is because of some of my live streams that I've done in the past, ones with like zero editing. You can't edit them during the recording, no trimming, no B-roll, nothing. Some of those have consistently been some of my best performing content, even long after the live stream is over. Though I think video has never been more important than it is now, as I've discussed in some of my prior episodes, I do think that heavily edited, heavily produced video starts to lose some of that advantage, at least with the real humans. The more polished something looks, the more it can start to resemble the same commoditized content that everyone else is putting out. A little rougher, more honest videos keeps that edge that made video valuable to begin with. Just keep your videos to the point and as short as practicable. Now, if you've been holding off on video or you've stopped doing video in the past because you're picturing some elaborate production process, fancy cameras, lighting, I don't even have my light on, hours of editing software, I want to try to quiet those concerns. So my actual workflow is pretty close to show up, say the thing, trim what doesn't belong, and publish. That's genuinely most of it. If you'd like to hear more of this, Subscribe to the podcast, and I'll be happy to explain this in more detail in the next episodes.